Are we online? Yes, indeed. Everything should be okay. And let's see what YouTube says. YouTube says it has connected to the stream. Alright. Very well. Welcome everybody to a new episode of the Code Explorer, the place where we learn to code a new language by trying cool things, bumping into problems, and solving them to reach our goals. My name is Cedric, and today in the third episode of the PHP series, we will cover some control flow in PHP together with a little recapitulation of classes from the previous episode. So, control flows. What are we going to see in the control flow of today? The first thing we're going to see is some of the if statements, if and else. What does it do? Where can you use it? What does it mean? The second one is the switch statement. How can we use it, and in which case can it be very helpful? The for loop, the for each loop, do while and while do. What we're going to see what the difference is between it, and we're going to try to use it inside one of our new classes. So let's just dive right into it. So let's open our NetBeans IDE. So in the last episode we made ourselves a little fish class, and this fish class we gave it a number of attributes, an attribute length, an attribute color, number of scales, and we made a small constructor to be able to instantiate the object and to get some values from it. So we made a new fish here with 5 number of scales, a length of 5, a number of scales of 70, and we let the PHP set the default color green, because we did not give any attributes or parameters for the color value. Okay, so as I told you, in this video we're going to see some control flow. So let's just start with a small recapitulation of our classes. Let's just make for the sake of the recapitulation, let's just make a whole new PHP file, and let's make a new class inside it. So let's make the class a real life object. Let's make it a car. Car.php is now a fact, and we're going to make our another class inside it, just like the fish, the class fish, and we're going to make it class car, of course. And this class is going to have some private values, private color, once again, just like the fish had, a private color, a private horsepower. So where I live, horsepower is set in pk, like in Dutch it's called paardenkracht, but let's just say we're going to use power just to describe the horsepowers. So private power, so we got a color, a power, and let's also put in a private brand, and oh, forgot the dot comma, and a private let's see, a module. So this is going to be the blueprint of our car. So every car that we make will need to have a color, a power value, a brand, and a model. So let's quickly make a constructor that by typing public car, and then the parameters that it accepts, going to be color, power, brand, model, and just assigned all of these values. Identify a car. Public. Oh, it needs to be a function. Public function. Yeah, indeed. and we're going to re-input the curly braces just so that our line indents are okay. So the car is just going to, I'm just going to type this is these things are, the explanation of these things are fully covered in the previous video, so I'm just going to put all of these values inside in the right way. This color is color, this power is power, this brand is brand, this model is model. Okay, very good. Let's just say that when we make a car, the default color is going to be white. So when you go and buy yourself a brand new car, the default color is going to be white. So we put white in here and equals to white. Alright. This car, what can the car do? The car can simply oh, you know what? Maybe why not just go ahead and give it another attribute, private distance that it already drove. So distance, and we're just going to add it in here. Default, it's going to be let's say 0. So no, let's just say you don't have to, when you make a car, you don't have to input the distance, because default the car distance is just 0, and just like say like this distance is 0. Okay, so when you make a car, you do not have to give any distance, because if you make a brand new car, it's of course going to not going to have any distance on it, because it's just brand new. It has not driven anything yet. So yeah, this car, it can have some functionality. For example, we can make a public function drive, and it can this function can get a certain distance, and when we simply drive the car, then our distance, so this distance is going to be added up with let's say if we can do it like this, plus s distance. Let's see if this works. Well, we'll just check in a minute using the command line if it works. So we just add up these two things. It can drive, a car can drive, but what can it also do? You can get a car description, so public function get description, and it's going to return this you know, why don't we just use these curly braces? This color white car has power it has driven distance. Let's say the distance is in kilometers. So where I live, we use kilometers. I don't know where you are from. It may be miles. It may also be kilometers. But where I am, it is kilometers. Let's put in a new line. Yes, and just for the sake of doing it the right way, we also need to add the power and the brand. It is this brand with just a space, and then this model, and then another new line. Alright, so we return this string, and it's up to the user to do what he wants with it. So if we say, for example, let's say a Peugeot, so our car is new car, and let's say what arguments do we need to give. Power, let's say for like 95 horsepower. Let's say it's a car from the brand Peugeot. Peugeot is made in France, by the way. If you didn't know that yet, that's another thing you have learned from my videos. The model is going to be 207 because I used to drive a 207 and I really did love the car. The model, the color, and the color was of course white, but we're going to say like extra white because we really like the white on my car, or I like the white on my car. You haven't seen my car yet, but it was cool. So yeah, we made ourselves a first car with extra white color. It's a Peugeot 207 with 95 horsepower, and default it's always going to have a distance of 0. So let's just echo the car dot get description. Oh no, you don't have to say dot, you say get description. Okay, so let's just run the script using the terminal. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you are able to read it better. Where are we right now? So we're going to go to documents. I'm going to go to learning PHP. First.php, cd first PHP. So you just navigate inside your terminal towards the location where the car.php is seated. So we have the car.php in here. We are in the right folder. And we just say php car.php and just hit enter. So our car.php has the class. So that basically does nothing except giving you a blueprint for making a car object. And we just make a new car like we described it here, and we echo the get description function, the return value of the get description value. So as you can see here, everything is going to be parsed very well. So it this extra white car has 95 power. It has driven 0 kilometers. It is a Peugeot 207. So that is very, very good. So that's what is considered to be the basics of object-oriented. So that we covered that in the latest video. And so the first thing we're going to do is look at the if statement. If. So for those who do not know what an if means yet, an if statement basically means that you are going to check on whether something is true or false. As you may or may not already know, I am a developer as a living, and these things I already know, but I do not know what the syntax for certain control flows are in PHP. So that is in fact going to be the first thing. The first time I learn these statements in PHP. So let's just go ahead and open Google and let's just go ahead and search for it. So PHP if else if statement. Let's just keep it simple the first time. If statement. If manual. The if construct, one of the most important features in many languages, PHP included. It allows for conditional execution code fragments. So basically, yeah, indeed, what it says, it does what it says. You are going to check whether a value is true or false, and if it is true, you are going to execute a certain amount of code, certain block of code, and if it is false, you are going to execute the other block of code that you define. So this is a very simple example. If A is greater than B, then do this. Echo A is bigger than B. So let's just dive right into it. Let's just give our car class a simple function, public function true or false. Just to test the basic functionality of an if function. And this car, we are going to check if the car has return. No, we're not going to do it like this. So if our car, so this power is greater than, like say like 80 horsepower, is greater than 80 horsepower, then we are going to return it is not a light car. Else, so if it is below 80, so if it is above 80, it is going to execute this chunk of code, and else, so that's the other side of the if statement. If it is below 80, then it's going to return this is going to return it is a light car. Very simple, very straightforward. So you check if the object's power is above 80. If it is above 80, you return it is not a light car, and if it is below 80, you are going to return it is a light car. So the echo get description, we're going to get rid of that one, and then we're just going to go echo car true or false. Perhaps we should rename the method, because true or false is not really a good method name. Car power. Let's just name it car power. Car power. Okay, so let's just execute this chunk of PHP once more, and let's just. Oh yeah, we forgot like a new line. So yes, indeed, we run the script, and it says it is not a light car. And yes, indeed, because we have defined, we should not be doing this with strings. So it is an integer. Horsepower should be an integer because it is a number. So basically, because we have set for our car that it has 95 horsepower, and then with by executing car power, we check if it is above 80, which it is because it is 95. It is going to return it is not a light car, and we can see it here that it does do that. So that is what considered an if statement. So you have an if, an else, and you should also have an else if, but I cannot see that anywhere near here. You also have apparently a really small version of the if statement. So if you say like var is true question mark, if it is, then return true. If it is not, then return false. And we're going to return that to the echo function. So basically, if we do like this, if but we do not have a boolean in here. I'm going to explain a boolean in just a minute. A boolean is actually very simple. It's a data type, just like you have a string or an integer, and it's just true or false, just like a 1 or a 0. So yeah, let's just do that. Public function. The name of the function is going to be is it new? Is new, and it's going to return whether or not um, this distance is 0 question mark. Let's see if this actually does run. It's an error after that. We should, I believe we should put it in brackets. Okay, so true, and then false. Let's see, what does it do now? Instance of, expected instance of, unexpected closing something. Oh yeah, because we have to use like dot comma. Okay, so this should work right now. So we have an echo car power, and then we're just going to, instead of displaying the car power, we're just going to say car is new. So basically we already made a new car, so normally it should return a yes, a true rather. And let's just rerun the file. This is clear before we run it. And yes, indeed, it does return a 1. So basically, in PHP, apparently, if you have a boolean and you want to, excuse me, if you want to cast it to a string, you get either a 1 or a 0, depending on the value true or false. Okay. So the next thing we're going to go through is the switch statement. So PHP switch statement, switch manual, the official manual, and PHP. Oh, so yes, so this one is the one I was talking about. If you have like an if something is 0, then it's going to execute this, but you can also go way many times further. So you can say like else if it is 1, then execute this, but else if it is 2, then execute this, and then at the whole bottom, if you then say else, then it's going to do the code when none of these conditions has been true. So if you have for example, if this variable I was like 4, then it's first is going to check like I is 0, which is false, and it's not going to execute this piece of chunk of code. Is 1, which is also not true, is 2, which is also not true, so it's not going to execute any of this code. And if you would put in here like else, and then just a chunk of code like echo I equals something different than 1, 2, or 0, 1, or 2, then it would go and execute that. So yeah, that's basically the if, else, if, and you can go as far with this as you basically want, but when you go like 4 or 5 steps, then the real best practice to go for is like a switch statement. So a switch statement is basically something where you say like, okay, I'm going to do different things in code depending on the value of this variable. So in this example, if you say like, okay, I'm going to do different things of code depending on the variable I. If it is like 0, I'm going to execute this. If it is 1, I'm going to execute this. If it is 2, I'm going to execute this. And normally you should also have like a final or a default that executes whenever none of these cases are being met. Basically, it's actually just the same as like if else, but it's it's in a way more beautiful way written, and I also believe it's more performance. It gives you a faster throughput, because you just execute like the case. But I do not know that one for sure, especially not in PHP. But yeah, let's just dive right into it. So we have our car, and we're just going to say car. Okay, we're going to give it a public function, like amount of usage. And depending on the distance that it has driven, we're going to output a different, we're going to return a different string. So switch. Oh, so basically NetBeans already does it for me. That is very, very nice. So this distance. So we're going to switch on the value distance, and in case the value is greater than, let's put it in brackets, greater than like 2000, then we're going to return he has been used a little bit. Okay, so what does it say here? Unexpected. Okay, so value, case value. Alright, so I do not know any PHP yet, but I had a small feeling that you might need to say like, okay, the value, if the value that we are switching on is greater than something, or smaller something, or equals something, then you just need to use the value. But we're going to see it in just a minute if it actually does work. I'm also wondering if we do not have to use these curly braces, but let's just not break our heads on it right now. So break. Every break apparently means in coding language when you use a switch. So when you use a switch, you say like, okay, this is the value. Then the case, you say like, this is the condition that it goes into this code. And when you say break, you say to the code like, okay, this is the end of this case. And then you automatically restart with another case. Value is bigger than 40,000. Then you just say return he has some used marks. Break to ensure that the amount of code is stopped, it is returned. And let's just say case, to put in a third case, value is greater than 100,000. Oh, let's choose the right one. And then we're going to return this guy needs some real love. It has been used a lot. Okay, so break. And default, if it's like under 20,000, so it's like if it's like above 100,000, it's going to return this one, I believe. Oh no, we're going to have some problems with this one. I wonder if you guys see it, but I see it. So it's always from the moment that it's going to be above 20,000, the distance is above 20,000, it's always going to execute this piece of code. Even if it's like 60,000 or like 200,000, it's always going to be like executing this piece of code, because this value is going to be checked as first, and because it meets this condition, it's going to execute this piece of code and then just execute and then just quit the switch statement. So we are going to have to say like, okay, if it's smaller than, if the distance is below 20,000, it has been used a little bit. If the distance is below 40,000, it has some used marks. And if the distance is below below 100,000, it needs some real love. And let's just say case if we have like a final switch case final PHP switch. Oh, we get onto the right side and just the same page. Okay, so you apparently you can also do this with a string. Okay, case. So if it's a certain case, it does nothing. So oh yeah, that's also very handy if you have like a certain case that you do not want to fall under the default case, but you just want it to do nothing. Then you just say case and then just leave nothing, even not a break. Okay, case. Okay, so default. Okay, as it says in here already. Okay, wow. I'm just too stupid to see this. So the default is going to return this vehicle is getting old already, or it has been overused. Okay, so let's return that one. Okay, we should get no errors yet. Remember, this is all still inside this car class. And we're going to use the new function that we just made, amount of usage. And in the first place, guess what? Because we haven't driven anything yet, because the distance is like 0, we should be getting, he has been used a little bit. So let's just test it. Oh no, it is not. This vehicle is getting old already. Okay. So basically it should be 0, because it has like a distance of 0. Return. Let's just say we make the car drive a little bit. Car drive for a distance of like 100 kilometers. Just rerun the file. It has been used a little bit. Okay, so basically if the value is still 0, then it is not going to consider to be smaller than 20,000, because 0 apparently is in PHP is not smaller than 20,000. But from the moment you say like, okay, it has like 1, then it is used a little bit. But if we say like, okay, let's say it has been used for like 80,000 kilometers, then you should normally get, oh no, it doesn't. Okay. Has been used a little bit. And normally it should give you, this guy needs some real love, it has been used a lot, but it doesn't, and I wonder why. So let's just, for the sake of debugging, car, let's say I'm thinking about searching for a way to debug some PHP code. Car.amount of usage. I guess is the right one. Oh no. We need to say distance. What? Oh yeah, because it is private distance. So you need to make like a public function. Public function get distance, but already real amount of distance. Okay, and then just return this distance. Okay, so let's just say car get distance. Parse error and echo. Oh, car. Yeah, it should be okay. Oh no, I see. Echo car distance. 80,000. So basically it is 80,000. But the question is, it is a string. Is it a string or a number? And here it says 0, and then later on, when we drive a certain distance, it is being added. So get distance should be smaller than 100,000 value. This distance. Okay, so why does it not do the things that we wanted to do? Let's just add a new line, just for the sake of keeping everything clear, and then echo car amount of usage dot, and then another new line, just to make sure. Okay, it has been used a little bit, even though it's like 80,000. Okay, case value. Let's just PHP switch case greater than. Okay, perhaps this is going to be useful for us. We just need to use like this. Okay, without a value apparently. And we can also, of course, use this one. Okay. So let's just delete these guys. And what does it say about this? It gives a clear error. Okay. Handle ranges. Switch, but that's not really a switch for each. It does something different in here. Switch function doesn't recognize less than 0. Switch statement doesn't work like that. When checking each case, the value is compared to the case value using, okay, so PHP is doing bytes is 0, bytes is bytes smaller than 0, which is bytes is false. This is true, so it's run that block. You need to use an if else statement here. Okay. An old question, there's another way of using switch, I find it on SciPy. Case, bytes, switch true. Yeah, but this is an entirely different way of using the switch, right? Okay, so apparently we have to use it with if else and not with case, because case apparently checks with an is equal. Is it possible in switch case, a more general case of solving this switch through, and then yeah. So let's just use this version, because we specifically want to use a switch case for our problem. but we still want to give it like ranges. So switch true and then use the variable and then set it lesser than or equal to something. Okay, so switch true and then we say like this distance is smaller than something. Okay, let's just put this everywhere that we need it to. I'll just fix these error in just a minute. Okay, so according to the internet it should be working now. Let's just test it first. Yes, indeed, it says 80,000, so we've driven 80,000 kilometers with it, and it says this guy needs some real love. Needs some real love. It has been used a lot, and that is indeed the right code that is needed to return. All right, so the switch statement is covered. We got ourselves a first switch statement in PHP. Apparently, you cannot use ranges. Except if you use it this way, and if you don't want to use it this way, you need to use if, else, if, and all those kind of things. And alright, so let's just make another function for our nest control flow type of statements. Okay, so the next thing we're going to cover is a simple for loop. I see I'm already getting into the reach of 1 hour, so basically I'm just going to cover this one and perhaps do another half an hour video tomorrow or another day to cover the for each loop, the do while loop and the while do loop. Actually, the do while loop and the while do loop are two things that are very similar to each other, and I'm just going to cover them really quickly next to each other. And to be honest, the for each loop is also in some cases very similar to the for loop, but it has some major differences. But I'll explain it later. I'll just, for now, just to kick off this third lesson, I'm just going to finish with a simple for loop. So I'm going to do a public function that is going to say like, okay, so drive multiple times. Okay, so this drive multiple times, the purpose of this function is to say like to the car, okay car, I want you to drive like for like 100 kilometers and do this for like 5 times. And so it needs to go like 5 times, okay, car, drive 100 kilometers, drive 100 kilometers, drive 100 kilometers for 5 times. So we're going to accept like 2 parameters. So the first parameter is going to be number of times. Let's just say times. And then just put another parameter, distance. Okay, so this amount of times the car is going to drive this amount of distance. So we already have a function drive, and we're just going to call that function from this little function here. So we're going to say like, okay, this drive distance. Okay, but we need to execute this for like 5 times or like 10 times. We could, if we say like, if we always have to go like 5 times, we could just copy the code, but that's not really the point of a for loop. We are going to make it do this piece of code the times amount of times, really. So yeah, let's just search Google for PHP for loop, PHP for loop. PHP 5 for loops. Okay, so for init counter, test counter, increment counter. Okay, so the things you need to know right here is if you say like a for loop, you're going to say like, okay, I want to execute something some amount of times. So the first thing you're going to have to do is to initiate a counter variable, and you're gonna have to say like this counter equals to 0 or 1, and then as long as the counter is like smaller than 5, for example, you're going to be executing the code, and every time that you have executed the code, you're going to increment the counter. So basically, yeah, this is a small example for it. So you say like for the variable x is 0, so it starts at 0. As long as x is like smaller than or equals to 10, then we're going to increment, as long as it's smaller than 10, we're going to execute this block of code, and every time we have executed this whole block of code, we're going to say like x plus plus 1. So we're just going to say like increment x with 1. So let's just try this. For, I hope NetBeans does this for me, it will be really cool. PHP 4. So counter. So a variable counter is 1, and as long as the counter is smaller than or equals to times, we're going to execute this block of code, and then every time it is executed, we're going to say okay, counter plus plus. Okay, and we're going to open these curly braces and insert the code right in here. So let's just test this. Normally if we say like okay, we leave this one behind, so now we have driven no miles, and if we just execute the code, he's just going to say like okay, 0, he has been used a little bit. Oh, what a typo. Little bit, because 0 is less than 20,000, of course. Okay, so the first try we're going to do is like say to the car, okay, car, what was it in here? Drive multiple times, and then times, let's say it drives 3 times a distance of 300 kilometers. Okay, so let's just do that, and then so we've driven 3 times the distance of 300 kilometers, and it has driven 900 kilometers, and then of course it only has been used a little bit. Let's say after that one that let's just copy this chunk of code, and let's just reinsert it here. Technically speaking, because we are reusing this code and we are repasting it, so this is being executed 2 times, you could also just insert this in here. No, I'm sorry. You could just also insert this in here. Because every time you do this, you should automatically print the distance of the car. But technically, if you want to do this, we are never going to echo something from inside the class, because it's just not really good practice. We're going to return car dot not dot but get distance, and then also give it a new line, and let's just say we just echo car and let's just say it drives 6 times a distance of 150 kilometers, excuse me. So as you guys can see, I used a little trick here. You echo the value that you get from executing this method, and this method just does a for loop. It just drives the car a certain amount of times for a certain amount of distance, and then after that it just returns a string of the get distance added by a new line, and that is just being echoed right in here. So let's just execute this and hope this works. Okay, fatal error, call to a member function get distance on a non-object on line 71 on a non-object. So basically, I believe that we need to say like, okay, return is this and then echo return, because I think it's something with the returned value, because there's something weird going on. And let's just return echo return. I know this is not really much different of the previous version that we just did. Okay, it is still not good. Call to a member function on a non-object. Line 71. Oh, okay. I see. 71. I should have read the statement in the first place a little bit better. There's nothing wrong with our code in here, so we're going to like do some backwards stuff in here. But you see the error is right in here, because we say return car. It doesn't need to be return car. It just needs to be return this get distance. Okay, so normally everything should be fine right now. Yes, indeed it is. So we made our car, then we let it drive like 3 times a distance of 300 kilometers, which adds up to 900 kilometers, and then it returns the distance, and that distance is being returned in here by it calls this method, and then it's being echoed, and then yeah, the 900 comes out of it, and then we are going to drive 150 kilometers for 6 times, which is, let me just calculate it very quickly because I'm just too lazy to do some math. Oh, it's also 900. Okay, that's just basically stupid. Let's make it 250 and re-execute it, and that just adds up to this number in here. Okay. So basically what we did now is make a very simple for loop for the 2 parameters that are coming in, and for the amount of times we're going to drive the car in a certain amount of distance, and then we're going to return the get distance. So you can say congratulate. You can congratulate yourself, everybody, because we have successfully we've successfully been over the classes once again, and we've made some cool control flows. We've used an if else, we used some switch cases, and we've also made a little for loop. So why not just go and try it yourself once again, do some cool stuff with it, as just like I did. And next time we will cover the for each loop, the do while, the while do loop, and perhaps also some recursive things, and maybe we will also cover some arrays. I even believe that we need arrays to get into the for each loop, but I'm not really sure. I'm going to have to look that up first before I get into my next video. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you learned something from it. At least I did. And if you liked it, like it. If you disliked it, also dislike it. It's completely up to you. Once again, thanks, and get subscribed if you don't want to miss out on any videos. And let's see you next time then, into more learning PHP. Alright, peace.